Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, February 24th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Triple C. The world is watching as Russia invades Ukraine, attacking on several fronts, causing casualties, as the U.S. and allies condemn the military response. President Biden vowing, quote, "The world will hold Russia accountable." Locally, emotions and opinions running strong, and right now a prayer vigil is being held in Santee. Our coverage begins, though, with Isabel Rosales on the military moves and the worldwide reaction.
President Joe Biden unleashing several more crushing economic sanctions against Russia, saying they're designed to, quote, maximize long-term impact on Russia and minimize the impact in the U.S. and its allies.
The United States is not doing this alone.
Biden says the new sanctions will block 4 major Russian banks from the U.S. financial system, freezing their assets.
We will limit Russia's ability to do business in dollars, euros, pounds, and yen to be part of the global economy.
Before the first light of dawn, the Russian attack began. Missiles raining down on locations near the capital, Kyiv. Stunned Ukrainian families taking cover in subways turned bomb shelters.
They actually attacking in our neighborhood, and they're making us feel insecure and very unsafe.
Others scrambling to pull money out of ATMs or deadlocked in traffic to evacuate the capital city of Kyiv.
Well known.
In a chilling TV broadcast, Russian President Vladimir Putin warning other countries to not interfere.
Russia's response will be fast and give you such consequences you will never face again, and you faced again in your history.
Biden unfazed in his response.
Putin is the aggressor. Putin chose this war, and now he and his country will bear the consequences.
In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
And here in San Diego, those with family and friends in Ukraine are watching in horror as Russia attacks.
Ukraine wants peace. Ukraine wants peace.
And earlier today, people gathered near the county administration building calling for peace and for others to take a stand against war. There are 2 Ukrainian Catholic churches in the region, and one of them holding a prayer service right now in Santee. KPBS reporter John Carroll has the local reaction.
A little bit of panic. A lot of panic.
When we last spoke with Nadia and Askold Hewaz on Tuesday, they were still holding on to hope, praying that Vladimir Putin would not launch the war against Ukraine that is now underway. They continue reaching out to family and friends. The stories they're hearing now are gut-wrenching.
They've gotten in their car and they are leaving, and when I ask them where they're going to, they do not know. They are very frightened.
But we need support from Americans, sanctions, weapons, because it's time.
Up until recently, the main concern of Father Yuri Sas was the construction of the congregation's new church in Santee. Now his attention is focused thousands of miles away.
People are dying over there. Every minute, every second, people dying. We need to stop this stupid aggression.
Now, both the Hewazes and Father Sas are left with a sinking, hopeless feeling, not knowing what will happen next.
I can't believe it happened. I didn't believe to yesterday, but it happened. And we need to stay together. We need to support each other.
Totally unnecessary, totally unreasonable, just crazy, just something that I couldn't envision, surrealistic, not reality, of another world.
And that is KPBS's John Carroll reporting. Crude oil prices shot above $100 a barrel after the invasion, increasing worries about gas price increases here in the U.S. San Diego County set yet another record today. The average price of a gallon of regular gasoline shot up nearly 3 cents to $4.78. But as KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado explains, there might soon be some relief.
No matter where you go in San Diego County, gas prices continue to hover at around $5 a gallon. Nick Stoneking is shelling out $95 to fill up in La Mesa.
It's pretty ridiculous. It's definitely gone up since the last time I filled up.
AAA says gas prices are up 4 cents a gallon just from last week and $1.12 more than last year.
It's been painful.
Scott Roscoe, who lives in Ramona, says if prices go up by $1, like some experts are predicting because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, his family will have to rework their budget.
We won't go out to dinner as much. We'll have to just really watch what we're doing. I mean, we live on a budget. But we only make so much a month.
Sean Pratt, who does in-home support services for clients who live on opposite sides of the county, says public transportation is not an option for her, and she's at her limit.
How do we afford gas if it's that high and afford California's rent and water and gas and electricity and food?
Supervisor Jim Desmond says he's getting about 10 to 15 calls every day from people wondering the same thing.
And so people are very concerned. And so I sent a letter to the governor saying, hey, there's a surplus this year that we all know about. It's the surplus of state taxpayers. It's their money. And so how can we put this to good use?
Desmond wants to temporarily cut state-mandated programs like wildfire mitigation that end up on SDG&E bills.
So that this can help offset and give some relief to people who are already struggling from inflation.
He hopes Governor Gavin Newsom takes action on his idea or another that will bring relief soon. We reached out to the governor to ask about the gas tax. Some had proposed to be halted too. In a statement, Newsom's office says the governor's proposed budget would forego the gas tax increase that's supposed to take effect in July, postponing it until 2023. The budget still needs to be approved.
I'm not going to complain. Every little bit helps.
This morning, the president urged American oil companies not to exploit this moment to hike gas prices. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
A grim milestone for San Diego as we have surpassed 5,000 COVID-related deaths. As of this week, 5,004 people in the county have died from the virus. As restrictions related to COVID are easing, hospitals are still seeing many unvaccinated patients becoming hospitalized and dying. 3 COVID-related deaths were reported on Tuesday, the youngest being 46 years old. A 22-year-old patient died of COVID-related complications on Saturday. More than 80% of those currently hospitalized are unvaccinated patients.
In terms of science, we've done a lot to help make sure that people don't die from the disease. If you're vaccinated, if we can minimize that number of people who end up ever needing the hospital, we will minimize the number of casualties from COVID.
Dr. Singh said before we had vaccines, 1 in 50 to 1 in 100 people who got COVID died from the virus. Now the death rate is 1 in 30,000. The CDC is changing how it measures the need for COVID-related restrictions, including mask wearing. We could hear from them tomorrow about how, quote, community levels of disease will not be determined by only case numbers. Rather, the metric will be cases that lead to hospitalizations and death. The changes are a reflection of the number of people now vaccinated, as well as the fact that the Omicron variant produces milder symptoms. As things stand now, the CDC's map shows 97% of counties are considered to be in high transmission, and those numbers are expected to decrease with the updated metrics. San Diego is getting a snapshot of homelessness for the first time in 2 years. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman was out with volunteers as the annual point-in-time count got underway.
Teams met well before the sun came up. It was a frigid 37 degrees at Spring Valley Elementary when the annual homeless count started.
It's just nice to know where people are experiencing homelessness, and any data that we can get on that is great.
Brian Gruters and Bryce Mihalik from People Assisting the Homeless joined the count in the Spring Valley area. Unlike downtown or near the beaches, East County is more spread out, so teams have to drive around to find people. That's where on-the-ground knowledge comes in handy. Mihalik works in Spring Valley every day.
So having a little bit more expertise in the area and understanding this area a little bit better can be able to help out the volunteers understand this area.
It's in the region's best interest to have an accurate count. Federal and state homeless funding are tied to the number of people on the streets and in shelters. Teams spread out across the county. Volunteers are asking basic questions about age and how long people have been homeless. Some are also trying to connect people to help. But the issue is many services like shelters are far away in downtown San Diego.
We're here in the city of San Diego, and we appreciate the partnership with the council members and the mayor. But all the cities, when you're ready to do this, the county will be there to be your partner. As you identify a location, we'll step up.
In Spring Valley, teams spoke to one man who said he'd be interested in shelter, but doesn't want to leave his hometown.
I think for someone like that, the idea of moving to downtown to live in a shelter is, I mean, you may as well ask him to move to Iowa. It's just out of, he doesn't want to go there.
Outreach specialists say not everyone is the same, and some homeless have different needs than others.
We have some guys that have been out here for a very long time, and they really don't ask for anything. You know, then you have guys that are new due to COVID and just the economical situation that's happening now. They'll ask for different services like rent assistance or transportation, you know, if they're living in their car.
The count didn't happen last year because of the pandemic. In 2020, just over 7,600 people were found to be homeless, with about half of them on the streets. Data from the count helps prioritize resources, but advocates say action needs to be taken.
We need to support more housing any chance we get.
While there is a lot of focus on this particular count, this type of outreach work is done daily across San Diego. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Father Joe's Villages and San Diego Rescue Mission have activated the cold weather shelter plan tonight, making room for more people to avoid the elements. 4 local school districts were closed again today because of weather-related conditions. You can see from the camera at Laguna Mountain Lodge, there's still plenty of snow. People driving up the mountain are reminded to bring chains. While it's cold now, it looks like warmer temperatures are in store. Marvin Gomez has your full forecast.
Hope you had an excellent Thursday, and thanks for tuning in to KPBS News. I'm Marvin Gomez with a quick look at your forecast here in San Diego County. Those cold nights are gradually going to be warming up as we head into the weekend and early next week. We are anticipating a little bit breezy conditions for the higher terrain on our Saturday, so that is something important to keep in mind as well. And just in general, temperatures are on the rise for the next few afternoons. Dry weather is back across Southern California. Here's a quick look at tonight's forecast in San Diego County. Mainly clear conditions along the coastline, Oceanside 30 degrees, 41 in the downtown area. And looking at inland spots, Ramona, you're going to be cooling down to 27. It is going to be cold in Borrego Springs as well, 34 degrees for your low temperature. A frost advisory is in effect for some of the inland valleys in San Diego. Also, the deserts, we're going to have this advisory in effect from midnight tonight, stretching into our Friday morning until 8 a.m. The cold there is going to be mainly across the Four Corners and the Central Rockies, across the Southwest on Friday, and California throughout the coastline, and pretty much for everyone, we're looking at more mild conditions. Here's a quick look at what we expect throughout our area. Abundant sunshine in San Diego, 62 degrees for our high. Looking at Ramona, 61. Borrego Springs, 66 degrees there for your afternoon. Into our Saturday, that mild airflow continues for most of the California coastline and just throughout the state. Here's a quick look at your 5-day outlook along the coast. Not a lot of weather happening for us this weekend, just temperatures gradually warming up. We're going from the low 60s in inland valleys to the low 80s for Tuesday of next week. A few clouds across our area into our Sunday, especially over the mountains. Temperatures there gradually getting back into the mid-50s for early next week. And across the deserts, yes, we are at 66 on Friday. And then by Tuesday of next week, we will be once again in the mid-80s. I'm Marvin Gomez with your forecast for KPBS News.
Sea level rise will make a big impact on San Diego and other coastal regions by the middle of the century. A recent report from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration predicts ocean levels will rise 8 inches on the west coast by 2050. Mark Merrifield is with the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and he says that'll have a real effect on low-lying areas like the ones near Mission Bay and San Diego Bay.
These are all places where the water's flowing to a low point on land and entering the ocean. So these are the most vulnerable locations. So around the bay, as you say, including the airport, the high waters will not only overwash the infrastructure, but at times may come up through the groundwater. So as the water rises, the water table rises as well, and that will pose problems for low-lying areas.
And Merrifield says if global warming doesn't slow down, ocean levels could rise by as much as 4 feet by the middle of the next century. Ocean levels are expected to rise even faster on the East Coast. Here's another reason to get those household chores done today. It could help lower your heart disease risk. That's according to a new study out of UC San Diego. Mary Maloney has a closer look at why small daily movements can have a big impact.
Want to boost your heart health? Running marathons or doing intense workouts aren't the only way. Simple household chores may be all you need.
Our study shows that just about any movement counts.
Steve Nguyen is the lead author of a new study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association. A team of researchers at UC San Diego measured the physical activity of more than 5,000 American women between the ages of 63 and 97. And discovered doing chores like washing dishes, vacuuming, and cooking lowered their heart disease risk.
Any housework that we do, working in the kitchen, gardening, sort of all sorts of daily living activities.
This study found women who spent engaged in what they call daily life movement for at least 4 hours had a 43% lower risk of developing either cardiovascular disease or coronary heart disease, which includes heart attacks. They also had a 30% lower risk of stroke and a 62% lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. Researchers say the study could change how healthcare providers and caregivers discuss physical activity with patients.
Our hearts and cardiovascular systems do not particularly distinguish whether we're getting our movement through walking or running or through daily life movement.
Researchers say people of all ages could see a similar benefit.
We have no reason to think that there would not be benefit. We would just like to replicate our findings.
For today's Health Minute, I'm Mary Maloney.
And we have our first look into how many California college students are on food stamps. More than 21,000 San Diego students are receiving CalFresh benefits. That's according to new data released by the California Policy Lab. Before this, it was unclear how many college students were participating in or eligible for CalFresh.
We've partnered with the community colleges and the University of California, in addition to the Student Aid Commission and the Department of Social Services. And they're all really eager to understand sort of the extent to which they're reaching this population, in large part because pretty much all these partners believe that the numbers of students actually on CalFresh or using CalFresh is definitely below the number of students who are likely eligible for it.
Researchers hope they can use this data to help these students and make CalFresh more widely accessible. A runners group in City Heights is warming up for the return of their annual 5K this weekend after the pandemic put it on hold. KPBS Speak City Heights reporter Jacob Ayer says the club is a space for positive peer pressure and a better future.
The City Heights Runners Club brings together students from middle and high schools around the area. Club co-captain Vanessa Alvarez describes it as a family where they can share their cultures, languages, and foods.
Like most of the people in the team speak different languages. We can usually communicate because we speak more than one language, and it's not really like a barrier, and usually we host banquets at the end of every season, so we get to try each other's foods and, share our culture.
It also provides opportunities for students like the club's captain, Joseph Blue's son, who's a senior at Crawford High School.
I wouldn't have experienced UC Santa Cruz if it wasn't for the running program. We went to running camp and we took a tour of UC Santa Cruz, and immediately I fell in love with Santa Cruz and the university. So that's what really made me decide. So in terms, you can say that the running did affect me, going to college and going to Santa Cruz, and yeah.
Coach Tlaloc Venancio Mancia says it takes money to create those opportunities for low-income students.
The running shoes are very expensive. So a lot of the kids in the neighborhood cannot afford it. I myself, when I was running in high school, I couldn't afford it. I would go to the parks, like this park, and I would go collect cans to buy my running shoes, So all of that effort, at the end, I ended up getting a scholarship to run out of college.
The club raises money through its annual 5K and Kids Fun Run. They've been doing it for 9 years, with a pause in 2021 because of COVID. The event returns this Saturday at North Choyas Community Park. City Heights Runners coach and co-founder Chris Brewster is happy to have it back.
It's more than just a fundraiser for us. It started to feel like a City Heights community event.
Online registration is open for the 5K run until Friday at midnight. There will also be a day of race registration at the event from 7 to 8:15 a.m. Saturday. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, in-depth coverage of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the United States response. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's another look at today's top stories. San Diegans are showing their support for Ukraine. Right now, a prayer service is being held in Santee, led by a priest from St. John the Baptizer. He is calling on the Biden administration and the European Union to do more to stop what he calls naked Russian aggression. The average price of a gallon of regular gasoline in San Diego County rose nearly 3 cents today to $4.78. That's more than $1.12 more than we were paying this time last year. The average price has set records 7 of the past 9 days, but we could get some relief. Governor Newsom's proposed budget would postpone the gas tax increase that's set to take effect in July. And today, San Diego got a snapshot of homelessness for the first time in 2 years. The annual point-in-time count gives a regional view of people living on the streets and in shelters. In 2020, just over 7,600 people were found to be experiencing homelessness, with about half of them living on the streets. State and federal funding is tied to the count. And we want to end tonight on a lighter note and a blast from the past. While technology has come a long way since the 1980s, one San Diegan says the old school tech is the new school style. I recently met up with Boombox Chuck, known for his love of retro culture, especially the boombox.
It's an iconic machine. The boombox is like a bodily extension to Miguel Nunez.
I'm recognized for something I never even thought would happen in my life, which is carrying a boombox and rocking a style like that.
He goes by the name Boombox Chuck and is well known for his passion for vintage music systems.
I'm new school to the old school, but I saw the boombox and I just knew immediately I could be that guy walking around the city with a boombox blasting music.
Born in the 80s, an era when boomboxes were prolific in urban American pop culture, his love for the style and music of the time started at an early age.
The elements are like graffiti, DJing, breakdancing, b-boying, and b-girling, and MCing, which is like rapping in a sense. Everyone could have a style. Everyone could be themselves, and I think that's what a lot of the culture promoted in the early days.
Fast forward to today, when Nunez is not working at Pokey's vegetarian Mexican restaurant. He's often seen walking the city streets, audibly spreading his love of retro beats to all who cross his path.
I have conversations with all kinds of people, all kinds of walks of life, all ages, all ethnicities, and I just see something so sacred in that. So maybe by default, I'm reminding people to be themselves, you know, and to express themselves, most importantly, responsibly, of course, you know.
His collection of boomboxes is made up of specially selected personal favorites.
This is my baby. It's the one I started with. Speakers on top. Check that out. It's about 6 speaker system, double deck.
The only thing hindering his acquisitions is lack of space to store them.
Sanyo again, very good brand. One of my favorite right now. Prize Recession, never for sale. Let's see what we got. I will hunt them down every weekend, every chance I get, every flea market, and you see a boombox out of nowhere, you're like, whoa.
And the bigger the box, the bigger the size and number of batteries it requires.
Batteries are a very consistent part of rocking a boombox, playing a boombox.
Nunez holds hope that a battery company might take note of his mass consumption and possibly help him along the way.
It's just like a trip how many batteries I may have gone through. I can't even imagine. And that's why now I want to kind of better document it, because eventually I want to send the battery company a portfolio like, hey, what's up? I could be a potential marketing gadget.
And audio cassette tapes are becoming more like treasured vinyl. Nunez says tape sales, especially for local bands, have made a resurgence.
Beatbox.
He says most record stores in San Diego sell cassette tapes.
Something about the old-fashioned physical copy, reading the credits or the details or the special shout-outs, you know?
But there will always be an element of those plastic cassette tapes that no one will ever miss.
Out of nowhere, sometimes my tape would just get like eaten up. I'm like, oh no, I had the best mix ever. I'll never get that again.
In a time when technology has allowed us to have so much more than we did in the past, to Boombox Chuck, it's the past that feeds the present. For him, the self-expression born of retro culture will always play on a loop. And that was Boombox Chuck. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: by viewers like you. Thank you.